So we've got a Rick Tocchet interview on Zoom that we can talk about. We also have some updates in regards to Vancouver Canucks UFAs, and Sportsnet actually responded to the Luke Gazdic comments that we had seen from earlier this week. So there's a lot of Canucks stuff, and I wanted to go out there, combine it all into one video, just bring up the Streamlabs over here, starting out with what Rick Tocchet said earlier this morning on Zoom. Now, there was a bunch that he had talked about, but I wanted to focus on one player in particular that he goes out there and discusses, Elias Pettersson. Tocchet says he would like to see Pettersson come into top 3 shape when they report to training camp in September. He says that the guys know what's expected of them. It's been crystal clear. They just can't go backwards here. They set the bar here. Tocchet is also not too worried about the leadership group not coming in dialed in. And, I don't know if I would say that Pettersson is a part of the quote-unquote leadership group. Like, I get it, he's one of the best players on the team, he's going to be the most paid player on the team. But when I think big-time locker room leader kind of personality, I don't know, Pettersson just is not the name that comes to my mind. I think of Quinn Hughes, I think of JT, I'm starting to think about Besser now more than ever, and then you could say maybe Myers. I don't know, Pettersson seems a little bit more aloof to fulfill that kind of a role, but that's just kind of me talking, I'm not in the room or anything, so my judgment isn't really valuable here. But with Pettersson, knowing the expectations, Tocchet said he'd like to see Pettersson come into camp as one of the top 3 guys in terms of physical fitness, and I think a lot of Canucks fans would say they want to see the same. If he's a lot more sturdy, if he's more fit, then maybe he doesn't fall down as much and able to sustain a better point production rate over the course of a full season and the playoffs. Who really knows? But Jabo Vancouver went out there and tweeted this about the Rick Tocchet comments. It sounds like Tocchet has thrown a bit of a gauntlet down to Pettersson this offseason. I think Pettersson needed to hear that. He has said he wants to be a difference maker in the playoffs. Then there are no excuses. Put in the work and prove it. Now, this reply says, yeah, they also need to get him a winger who can accept a pass and do something with it. They have more cap space than they've had in a decade. There are no excuses. Sure, but that can't be an excuse to not have the best offseason of his career. His issues went well beyond his wingers, and I'll agree with that as well. Pettersson definitely was not as good as he could have been, even though he was playing with Michkov and Lafferty. Still, there were times when Pettersson was on the power play and he would still exhibit some of the errors that we would note in his game in this postseason run. But aside from the Elias Pettersson conversation, we also had ourselves some extra thoughts in regards to free agents. This is what Josh Griffith went out there and tweeted earlier this morning, news on Nikita Zadorov. The Vancouver Canucks tried really hard before the playoffs to get the deal together, but they couldn't agree on the number of years. Since the playoffs, they didn't hold any contract talks. As much as Big Z wants to stay, it's looking more and more like we are going to free agency. Now, this, of course, is a very peculiar report. Griffith went out there and reported this on the Area 51 Sportsnet network, but I wanted to go out there and bring this up, not because of the scoop saying, oh yeah, he's not going to sign back, he's going to leave, it's looking more and more like he's going to free agency. The reason this is interesting is because just a few hours after this report was made by Josh Griffith, you had Ian McIntyre go out there and say this: amid the Canucks coaching news the last couple of weeks, there's been significant traction in contract talks with UFAs Zadorov and Lindholm. Maybe neither resigns, but it's possible the Vancouver Canucks could keep both players. And I get it. You could say, oh yeah, well, he's just saying it's possible the Canucks could keep both players. That's not that big of a scoop, right? Of course, it's possible for anybody to get anybody. It's possible for the Canucks to trade for McDavid. It's possible, but is it likely? No. Is it realistic? No. But Ian McIntyre does say there has been traction in contract talks with both of these guys, Zadorov and Lindholm. Of course, though, he does bring the caveat, oh, maybe neither of them come back. But it's possible the Canucks could keep both players. Really, this is not that big of a tweet, but the implication and the fact that Ian McIntyre decided to tweet this out is significant in my opinion. And you had a lot of Canucks fans replying to this and saying, oh yeah, this is great news. Timothy Miller says, I think you need to take Lindholm for a round of golf, adding Sportsnet Murph. But here's the thing. Why did Dolly and the other guys say the opposite of what the situation is? Michael Beck says, yeah, I think that Dalibor gets his info from the agent, IMAC gets it from the club. So if the Canucks are putting it out there that contract talks have started and have gotten to a significant point, there's traction with these discussions, then it is interesting to note about. But, as we had said, earlier today, Griffith said, nope, it's probably not going to happen. Later on, IMAC said, hey, significant traction. Even further down the line, you had yourselves Dan Milstein, the actual agent for Nikita Zadorov, retweeting this IMAC tweet and saying this is fake news. So, who knows what to believe at this point now, man? Lindholm, Zadorov, if the Canucks are kind of putting it out there, if Ian McIntyre's reporting that there's traction in the contract talks, and then if the agent goes out there and says, no, sorry, that's not happening, either somebody is lying here, or somebody is trying to get one up over the other. I'll say this for Dan Milstein, he's an agent, he's not going to go out there and reveal his cards publicly to social media, so he's kind of handcuffed into, forced into doing something like this. Of course, he could have just chosen not to respond at all, but if this is something that allows him to get a little bit more leverage for his client in the contract negotiations, then okay, I could totally understand why this tweet came out later on. Not saying that IMAC is wrong or that IMAC doesn't have any sources, he definitely does. He's buddy-buddy with Francesco Aquilini, after all. So, it's just interesting to note how we had a report saying, no, it's not going to happen, a report saying, oh, there's contract talks now, there's traction, and then a later report saying, no, that's fake news. So, lots of going on here in Canuckland. Of course, Dan Milstein is mostly the representative of Zadorov. He doesn't represent Lindholm, I'm pretty sure. Then there are some replies saying, yeah, we get the Zadorov updates from you through Dalibor Sports. Everyone knows the proper way of things around here. Give us a refund on Michkov. Yeah, okay, we're not going to indulge in that. So, we'll see what happens with this Nikita Zadorov, Elias Lindholm conversation. One more thing I wanted to talk about before we ended off this video, though. This is what Ryan Henderson went out there and tweeted out. He's the producer of Donnie and Dolly. He's always on the show. I'm not sure if Sportsnet has publicly responded to what Luke Gazdic had to say about the Canucks, but one of our viewers did get a response from them. This is the image. We'll go out there and read this. Luke is relatively new to broadcasting on the national stage, and having millions of people watching him every night comes with an elevated level of scrutiny. As Luke was prepping to appear on the podcast, he received vile, personal attacks towards himself and his family on social media. The content of these social comments was completely unacceptable and crossed a line. Luke's response on the podcast was an emotional one, and he made the mistake of taking what some people said to him online and generalized about the entire Canucks fanbase. He understands his conduct was inappropriate, and we are confident it won't happen again. Thanks and enjoy the finals. And I like how the Sportsnet comments, this goes out there and talks about both sides. It goes Elliot Friedman on y'all on the top half, saying, yeah, no, the comments that Luke received were not good. Canucks fans were really antagonistic and vile and toxic towards him. But then it also says on the bottom that, yeah, no, his response was emotional and he made a mistake. He painted the entire Canucks fan base in one stroke and said the team was a joke too. And the implication is that he was told somehow that his conduct was inappropriate, and now they're confident he won't do it again. Elliot Friedman, when he went on Donnie and Dolly, only talked about the top part, saying that the comments on social media are bad, and that Luke is totally within his right to feel the way he did. But, of course, Friedman isn't really talking about the rest of it, not even going out there and condemning his colleague, because a lot of people were saying, yeah, wait, like, this is not right that he said that. Friedman didn't really want to give his colleague any smoke, so he didn't say anything about Luke's response being unprofessional and emotional, and he just kind of concluded, yeah, you have to learn to deal with the scrutiny, and Luke will do that, in Friedman's opinion. Sportsnet, though, going out there and talking about the actual mistake of it, so if this is real, I appreciate it. I appreciate that there is a level-headed response from the Sportsnet people about Luke Gazdic and his comments, but for now, that has been a long video, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the Vancouver Canucks, Rick Tocchet talking about Elias Pettersson. What are your thoughts about the contract negotiations with Zadorov and Lindholm, and what are your thoughts about Sportsnet's response to the Luke Gazdic comments on Vancouver? Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. 99 and bye.